I have no idea. But I think we are live now.
Makes you proud to be an American. Yet today our nation is drowning in division and instability. Voters say they dread the 2024 election and find politics exhausting. 2 in 3 Americans think the country is on the wrong track. And 3 in 4 say the economy is not in good shape.
Prices are up 18% since 2020. More than half of the U.S. population has little access to childcare. 85% of Americans say their personal finances are a source of stress.
Americans want to believe a leader who says, "You can follow me. I've got you. Don't worry."
And yesterday, he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding more wages and job security. Senator Scott, you recently reacted
How does this work, dude?
by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired." Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, sir?
Obviously, the president, in a way, back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill
1
had
second.
86 billion, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in a finance committee hearing when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the
Tim Scott is horrible. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, it had been
Yeah,
cut
Tim
to
Scott just feels like an empty suit.
we must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make. And one of the ways that we do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state. I will also say 6 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has taken office. And he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
Well, I can promise you, but in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs, and especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said
this
you
their
really
opening
empathize with
statement?
the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott, and do you agree with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said, for sure. I like the spirit of it. I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually...
I've been through hardship growing up. My father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan.
So I understand that hardship is not a choice. Workers, I would say go picket in front
Of the White House in Washington,
Dude, he's so
DC.
slimy.
That's really where the protest needs to be.
He's
Disastrous
just
economic
slimy,
policies that have driven up
hedge
prices,
fund
that
guy
have driven
that
up
just-
interest rates and mortgage rates at the same
He gets under my skin, man. It's like, really?
Yeah, I can't stand Ramaswamy. He just... We know he's just in it to get some job working in the government. He doesn't really care about really running for...
What we need is to deliver economic growth in this country. Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home. Stabilize the U.S. dollar itself and rescind a majority of those unconstitutional federal regulations that are hampering our economy. That is how we unleash American exceptionalism. And that's not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is an America from poverty, and we should not apologize for it. That's what it means to be an American.
Together, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis make 336 times the number of rank and file workers. That's just part of a wider income inequality trend in the country. The richest 1% now controls 1/5 of all income. Vice President Pence, last week you said you side with American workers. but you also support how these companies operate.
Yeah, they gotta run a fine line here between being against unions but being for workers.
Univision and Fox Business for assembling such a wonderful forum. Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line. Manufacturing. And I got to tell you, while the union bosses are talking about class warfare and talking about despair, what's driving that is that Bidenomics has failed. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. Auto workers and all American workers. Biden's Green New Deal agenda is good for Beijing and bad for Detroit. We ought to repeal the Green New Deal, get rid of the mandates and subsidies that are driving American gasoline.
Senator Scott, you were mentioned. Will you care to respond?
There's no doubt that Joe Biden needs to be fired. That's why I'm running for president. I look forward to being the next president of the United States. I will also say, I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting
Every
the
time
America
he speaks, I
we
want to
all
throw up.
love. Growing up in a single-parent household,
up?
I wondered if the American dream would work for a kid in the inner city. I've got good news for every single child, whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or the rural parts of Iowa. America and the dream, it is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. God bless these United States of America.
Dr. Haley, you raise your hand.
I think we need to look at exactly what happened. Biden showed up on that picket line, but why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending, the fact that we are paying higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, $7,000 more a year for families. What we need to do is, I came out with an economic plan, eliminate the gas and diesel tax so that they have more money in their pocket. Let's focus on collapsing those brackets. Let's get rid of unfair distortions like the state and local tax that they give to wealthy people in blue states and not paid by red states. And let's make sure we make the small business taxes permanent. They only made those temporary. They made the corporate taxes permanent. Let's focus on what it takes to get more
I can see
cash
her or
in the pockets
Carrie
of
Lake
workers. That's when
going
we'll
for
be
vice
able to deal with
presidency.
strikes like this, not sitting on a picket line like Joe Biden is.
Thank you, Dr. Haley.
I'm sorry.
Allow me to.
He likes her the best, man.
We're missing the point, and every other
I think
network
between
is
her and
missing the
Lake
point.
is
The
a better-
reason
better
why people are striking
shot.
in Detroit is
But,
because Joe Biden's cities were subsidizing the automakers.
About him, he's just on the stage for no
Yeah,
reason.
please.
So
Please, just
yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with Carrie Lake. She is trying to run for Senate against Kirsten Sinema, and I think what's that guy's name? The one that went against Blake Masters. He's gonna run against her as well. So like, it really depends if anything happens in
Is she gonna run
Arizona.
for Senate? I heard she's just waiting to see about getting the VP nod.
I guess it really depends on what happens. If she does get some talks about a VP nod, she might not wait. But I think at the end of the day, she wants to have something that's gonna propel her somewhere because she lost the governorship. So hold on, let's see what she's saying.
Warns that politics of, quote, Trump's populist proteges, like Mr. Ramaswamy,
woman?
are a road to ruin.
She's
for the
from
GOP.
Univision.
If the government shuts down,
Oh.
should voters blame
Okay.
populist
That's her
Republicans?
accent's really.
Voters should blame everybody who's in
Yeah,
Washington.
they're trying to get the
DC.
Hispanic vote, you know?
They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. You know, during the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion. $7 trillion in national debt. And now the Biden administration has put another $5 trillion on and counting. They have failed, and they're in the spot they're in now because none of them are willing to tell the truth. None of them are willing to take on the difficult issues. They just want to keep kicking the can down the road. And the inflation that Nikki spoke about is because Joe Biden hides in his basement and won't answer as to why he's raising the debt the way he's done. And Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering. And if the government closes, it's the blame. It is to the blame of everyone in Washington, D.C., who has failed to do their job and just plays to the grandstand.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
Here's how we get it done in Washington. We must find a way.
Can we please respect the time?
We can get it done.
Governor DeSantis, you haven't spoken. Please.
The people in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more for everything.
That's so random. Why
they are the reason for that.
Oh
They've
my God.
shut down our national sovereignty by allowing our border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this is Governor of Florida. We cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Ilya, you mentioned the question. I just want to address the
They got this veto pen. It's on the minds of a lot of moms and dads and Americans, and I know that you've been thinking about it because child care costs, they are up. They're topping $10,000 per month. Some families are spending up to half of their income on child care, and they're having to decide, is it worth it for me to work, or does it not make sense for me financially? In 3 days, the billions of dollars in pandemic-era funding is going to end, and 70,000 daycares could close. That fell apart last year, and for the moms and dads out there who are worried, what can you tell them?
What the hell happened with that?
Around the country, giving people the opportunity to pick and choose the place that they send their children. The challenges that we see today under the Biden administration is that the cost for daycare has gone over $15,000 per child. In the Build Back Better plan, he called it a Build Back Better plan, it was going up to $29,000. The way we fix taxes and give more Americans their money back, when I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we actually lowered a single mother's taxes by 70% on the federal level. For dual income households by 60%. Then we went a step further. We doubled the child tax credit and made it refundable. By doing that, more parents had more resources to make the decisions how to take care of their family. The one thing we should do is let the American people keep their money. When that happens, the greatest opportunity.
Artificial division is unhelpful in our party. The real divide is not between the Republicans on this stage. And in the Reagan Library, I want to say these are good people on this stage. The real divide is between the majority of us in this country who love the United States of America and share our founding ideals, and the fringe minority in the Democrat Party that has a chokehold over that party. That's the real divide. So this populism versus classical debate is artificial. We need to unite this party.
Immigration and the border. We are going to talk about immigration and the border and
child care. We have
I think we're going to go. You have to.
They're talking about child care.
All these questions we're going to get to you. We're going to come back to you. There's a lot of time.
We're going. Child care. Nobody answered the question. In North Dakota, we knew that the cliff was coming. We knew that there was going to be millions of people.
Yeah, the thing is that with him, because he's so low in the polls, he has to fight for any time to get like a word in, and no one really recognizes him. So that's all he has.
Well, apparently he's a billionaire governor, right? That's what he is.
Reagan said the following.
The idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants, something no Democrat or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie, as governor of a non-border state in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship for 11 million of undocumented immigrants?
The problem is that since no one has done anything since we first had this discussion 13 years ago, we're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. what we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day. And Joe Biden and his crew is doing nothing about enforcing that law. They are letting it go. And by the way, they announced during the presidential race they were going to let it go. And we need to have a president who acts like I did as governor, enforce the law first and foremost. And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message. We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law and only if you come here legally. If you come here illegally, we will apprehend you and we will send you back across the border from which you came. And the fact is that until we set a law and order agenda in this country, not only now, but in the future, we won't be able to continue this. And I'll tell you this, Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor. All right, Governor Haley. Most illegal immigrants are coming from countries south of the border. You've seen the Fox News drone. It's captured this steady stream of people coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture of it tonight. That is happening right now, live. In the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration. But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border. We've had more fentanyl that have killed Americans in the Iraq, Vietnam, or Afghanistan wars combined. We need to make sure that we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's gotta stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's go back to remain in Mexico policy. Instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport.
What about what about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working?
The only aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period. We need to keep Americans safe, and right now Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this. Our money should be about keeping Americans safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that. And you mentioned Congress and shutting down government. I'll make it clear. We have to change the budget process in 4 years. In 40 years. Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years. If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should go.
Governor DeSantis, we have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, China invested $12 billion in Latin America just last year. They signed strategic partnerships with 7 countries, including Mexico. And China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties with our southern neighbors?
Of course not. And the reason why we're in this mess is because elites in D.C. for far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need a totally new approach to China. We are going to have real hard power in the Indo-Pacific, like Reagan, to deter their ambitions. We're going to have economic independence from China, where we're decoupling our economy, and we are going to go after the cultural power they have in this country. As governor of Florida, I banned the CCP from buying land in our state. We should do that all across these United States. We shouldn't have them in our universities. We shouldn't have Confucius Institutes. So you see a country in decline, our power's in decline. China's going to surpass us this decade, and if they do that, that's going to affect every single American household. As your president, I am not going to let that happen. I'm going to reverse this country country's decline, we are going to choose strength, not surrender when it comes to the CCP.
America is not a country in decline. Under Joe Biden, we are a country in retreat.
You proposed, quote, universal deportation for all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States. Under what legal premise will you expel U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I agree with everything. The Republicans on the stage are on the right side of this issue. Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that. Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of two sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws. That's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending birthright citizenship. What does Mr. Ramaswamy have wrong with that issue?
Yeah, there's no doubt the fact that when you think of the Constitution in the 14th
It's funny he says that because his parents were immigrants, and now he wants to close the door for everyone else behind him.
Illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is in fact one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not.
Okay,
So
even though
surviving
I'm a
Supreme Court
son of an
argument is something
immigrant
I
who
can't
came
take.
here,
But
he
from
said
a
they came here
perspective
illegally.
of the
That's some bullshit.
Constitution,
Most of
it's
the
simple
Indians who
that
come here,
clearly it
they
was
come through
designed for
on channels that are not so legal.
I'll go one step further,
Okay,
though.
so
We have a conversation
somebody
about
needs to
the things
check
that are
on
happening on this
exactly
stage.
how
We
his
think about
parents
the
came
fact that
through.
Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that because last debate he said we were all bought and paid for, and I thought about that for a little while and said, you know,
Ooh, he's gonna go after
imagine
Vivek.
how you can say that, knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
So look,
You
here's
not-
what I want to respond. These are good people.
Going on the attack.
Who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved.
Some of us are tainted.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
You said
If I
bought
may
and paid for.
finish.
Oh, yeah.
Gentlemen,
It's dirty now.
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges.
So listen up.
Can we please focus on the issues that matter? We know we did business in China. Everybody knows that.
If I may
Let's
address,
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be
I actually
focusing on.
agree with Ron DeSantis.
Dude, shut up, DeSantis. Let him fight.
Exactly. So if I may, I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, right when it that's years ago. Right when I started
Wait, what?
my
I
next
missed that.
company,
What did Nikki Haley
Strive,
say?
to compete against BlackRock. Excuse me. To compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe
You
these
were
are good
respectful
people,
last debate.
but I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not think it
honor
was
of
midnight
Ronald
in
Reagan's
America.
library. If I may, from one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another, from one admirer of Reagan to another, we cannot sit here and violate Reagan's 11th commandment.
I want to hear about that.
Let's have a policy.
They had to go after him.
Let us have a policy debate. Let's have a policy debate. And the right answer is we need to declare independence from China, and I will see that through.
Vice President
it's
Pence,
turning
in
into a shit show.
2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of 600,000 dreamers in the hands of the courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So we're nice to have you participating in elections. So let me speak to this issue. Number one, I negotiated the Mexico policy with the
all
Mexican
going after him.
We
Yeah, you got that boost last
power to bring the
debate.
Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall, and despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as President of the United States, I can do it again. And the truth is, we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America. I know how to do it, and we will do it again. Let me say one other thing about China. Let me say one other thing about China.
Would you negotiate with Congress to give a solution to the problem that Dreamers have right now? They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida by 30%. Yes. When I was a member of Congress in 2006, right after Hurricane Katrina, Dana, you remember it, we stood our ground. I led House conservatives. We cut $100 billion out of the federal budget. It can be done, but as I said in the last debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training. I'm going to be ready on day one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military fitted to our times, and we're going to get spending in Washington, D.C. under control once and for all.
On the other side of this break, and I propose to go to a break. How will these candidates make America safer as rising crime plagues our cities? Debate night continues in moments.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, I feel like they planned to go after Ramaswamy. They were really they all kind of just dogpiled on him on that whole China thing. I want to know what they're talking about because I never heard about that specifically.
What, the China thing?
Yeah, like where did that come from?
Well, they're catching him on the fact that he's done a lot of business with China in his previous business dealings. So as a result of that happening, they're going to try and go after him about that. He also took advantage of the H-1 the H-1B visas with some of his companies and the programmers.
Oh, to get cheaper labor.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did that as well. So there's a bunch of stuff that they are going to try and catch him on.
Man, it's been interesting. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get to the point where there's like less than 5 people. Like there's so many people for no reason. Like why? Tim Scott, I don't know why he's there. He's like still pulling like what, less than 5%.
Mm-hmm.
That other guy from Wisconsin? No, he's from like Montana or something. Like who the hell knows who he is? Doug something. It just feels like a waste.
It is a waste. But you know, all of them think they got a shot. They all think they got a shot. And the only one that's going to come through with all of this is like a waste of time. They're none of them are going to make any ground up on 45, man.
Yeah, it's literally just theater at this point. He pretty much still owns the Republican Party. I think even after, by 2028, he's going to still be like a kingmaker. He's going to decide who's going to be the
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He will be that up until the day that he's no longer in existence, man.
Yeah.
He's got that. His cult is going to continue to want him. What's going to be interesting is I don't care what anybody says. I don't think he can win, but I got a feeling that there's going to be this particular election is going to be. I know last election was pivotal. This one is going to be. I mean, extremely. Just agitated in terms of the things that can go on with it, especially if he gets convicted in any of those charges that he has on him right now, man, I could only imagine the thought of having a convicted criminal as the president. It would just be a sheer embarrassment to all of what we've determined up to now.
I'm wondering, would the Republican Party try to do some tricks to like get him off of being the nominee? Like, it really depends on when a conviction comes in, like it comes into play. That's like part of actually having him go to prison or actually put him in house arrest or whatever kind of time he'll serve. We won't really know till what, the summer or maybe the fall of next year, if any of these will be settled, like any of these charges he's getting.
The one that's going to come through fast and furious out of all of them is the one that's from Washington, because he's the only defendant, and the Washington one, the whole January 6th one, that right there is going to start in March. They can seat everybody come that time frame, and he's the only one, and the charges against him that they brought can very be proven time and time again. So I mean, there could be one that could automatically be done by the time it's all said and done, man.
As we'll wait and see. Hold on. Now they're talking about crime. Of course, they're gonna go into that. Here we go.
Prosecutors won't, but they are stretched as well, and they could not handle all of the lawlessness, the shoplifting, all the carjackings, the armed robberies. They're all surging. Progressive prosecutors were elected by their constituents, and they can't be fired by a president. So what would you do to end the revolving door of criminality?
Well, look, Dana, I'm the only one on this stage who's done it. For 7 years, I ran the 5th largest office in this country at the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, and we set records for the number of prosecutions that we brought that still have not been broken. And the reason was that we went after the crime that was affecting people's lives. And as president, I will appoint an attorney general and instruct that attorney general that you are to put all the resources that are necessary to bring our cities back under control. The fact is, they will be stretched. There's no doubt about that, but that's what they take the job for, because they love the idea of enforcing the law. We've got to bring law and order back to this country. And not just in our cities, but we need law and order back everywhere. We need law and order back in our suburbs. People are threatened there. We need it in our rural areas. People feel threatened there. And we need it in Washington, D.C. also. And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look at the camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight. Not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on this stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
All right. Governor DeSantis, you fired a couple of prosecutors in your state, but as as president, you would not have the ability to do that. How do you think about dealing with the root causes of crime, especially this revolving door of the criminals? They just get out and come back and commit another crime.
Well, the crime in these cities is one of the strongest signs of the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple days,
Florida has the third highest crime rate
who have been mugged on the street, and that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago. In Florida, we back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe. We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. And yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their posts, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
On a related subject, Governor Haley, there's a nationwide policing shortage. Retirements are up, recruitment is in the tank, Morale is at a record low. 3 years ago, you signed a pledge to support law enforcement. Now, pledges are a nice idea, but what's your actual plan to get more police on our streets?
Well, and I actually did it in South Carolina, too. You know, what we knew in South Carolina was you take care of those who take care of you. We have to start taking care of law enforcement, but it's not just taking care of them with words. It's making sure that you also follow through on what they do. Right now, we have a lot of stolen guns on the street. Well, these law enforcement officers, they arrest these people, and then they go and they're let out the very next day. So law enforcement feels like no one has their back. We have to start prosecuting according to the law. We have to make sure we have the backs of law enforcement, and we have to make sure that we're a country of law and order. But I want to go back to China because I don't think we spent enough time on that. Right now, we have to look at what government's doing to hurt us against China, too. You have a company, U.S. Antibiotics, that produces amoxicillin, the #1 antibiotic that we need. And right now, there is a company in Bristol, Tennessee, that produces that, yet our federal government only gets it from China. We need to be focusing on companies that produce in America and supporting those companies that produce in America, not companies that are helping China.
Governor, we will be talking foreign policy later. Ilya?
Yes, thank you, Stuart. We're going to stay in the topic of crime because it affects all of us. Governor Burgum, for the first time ever, a Univision poll found that mass shootings and gun safety are one of the most important issues for Latino voters. Mental health concerns are not unique to the United States, but gun violence is. What is your specific plan to curb gun violence?
Well, first we need to know is understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely bent on prosecuting law-abiding citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that showed the videos tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. What we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about. And like we've done in North Dakota, where we've got the goal and we're on the track to be the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've got the most military and the most support of what we're doing in terms of law enforcement, because the morale is down because we've been defunding the police, because they've been attacked in the press. The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman if people don't even respect them? Every time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you. And so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people that are out there defending us every single day.
Can I answer the question on mass shootings?
Mr. Ramaswamy, according to Customs and Border Protection, about 90% of fentanyl is seized at official border crossings, and 57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
There's two sides to this, and we have to be very honest about it. One is we do have to seal that southern border. Building the wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi-trucks can drive through them. We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border. But we also have to be honest. There's a demand-side problem in this country, too. A mental health epidemic. I met family in Iowa. Two parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pump and pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to stand for Americans and our children.
President, why are you encouraging TikTok? Quit encouraging TikTok.
That is why, everything he said I agree with. That is why as commander-in-chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the
Dude,
Mexican
he just
drug
pushes it
cartels.
in every time.
They are killing our people. And the stories that
Don't
I've
nobody
seen
care
in
about
Florida, we
DeSantis,
had
bro.
an infant, 18 months. Parents rented an Airbnb. And apparently the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died. Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that. So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are.
President Pence. All right, Vice President Pence. We're going to move on to a different issue. Hold on, sir. Vice President Pence. Just last month, Vice President Pence, you said if elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years, and you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more popular than ever. Why should Americans trust you, if you become president, to fix that, or is Obamacare here to stay?
Well, first let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one, Dana. Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as the father of three, as the grandfather of three beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings happening in the United States of America. And if I'm president of the United States, I'm going to go to the Congress of the United States, and we're going to pass a federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they will meet their fate in months, not years. It is unconscionable that the Parkland shooter, Ron, is actually going to spend the rest of his life behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars.
Mr. Religion is
Does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
Oh, yeah, he loves that penalty.
Oh my goodness. What the heck? Where did that come from?
Well, thank you for reiterating the question, because I'd love to answer it. Look, I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding, all of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the Federal Department of Education. Will allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states are going to help bring America back.
Stu, go ahead.
May I remind everyone to keep within their time frame so that we can get as many questions in as possible. This question for Governor DeSantis. Over 26 million Americans don't have insurance coverage. Governor DeSantis, 2.5 million of them are in your state. That's worse than the national average.
Yep.
Can Americans trust you on this?
Well, I think this is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. People that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa. She said, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending, taking all Biden's rules and regulations. I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to open up all of our energy. We will be energy dominant in this country. That will lower your gas prices. And what we need to do with healthcare is recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus. We have big pharma, big insurance, and big government, and we need to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
Governor, why is your record in Florida on insurance worse than the national average?
Exactly. Answer the question.
State, we've got got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population boom. We also don't have a lot of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically saying this is a field of dreams. You can do well in the state, but we're not going to be like California and have massive numbers of people on government programs witut work requirements.
You heard it. He's going to debate. He's going to debate.
And so that goes for all
Gavin Newsom, yeah.
And you know what that's done, Stuart? Yeah. Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth of any big state. And even CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
Yeah, he needs any debate he can get at this point.
On the topic of healthcare, Governor Haley, healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy for American families, accounting for 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies. As president, how you protect Americans who get sick from financial ruin?
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company in the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals to the doctor's offices to the PBMs to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide their health care, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the
Governor
American
Burgum,
people.
in 30 seconds, do you have a
Yeah, but that doesn't help lower the cost of
We're not
healthcare.
talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive healthcare in the world? It's because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008. And they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everybody more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive, they saw less patients per day, is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology. It wasn't about improving healthcare. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, healthcare, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
That was a great transition, because we are going to move on the future of education in America. What's the government's role in finding a way forward? The second Republican debate rolls on from Simi Valley.
An informed patriotism is what we want.
Okay.
And are we doing a good enough job teaching our children?
Oh, goodness. See, they have no plan for healthcare. It's like we have hundreds of countries across the world who have some sort of public option or universal system where they can negotiate the prices down, and all they can say is like, oh, we're gonna just take the government out of healthcare more so that you can like have more options. That's not how it works. Companies can leave a state if they don't like what the options are, and then when there's less competition, the price is going to go up either way. If you can negotiate prices on prescriptions and surgeries down, then there's more options there. I don't know. It just seems like just like an easy option. But
no, man, they knock Obamacare, but if it wasn't for a lot of people, would be dead right now if it wasn't for Obamacare.
Yeah, before that, companies could just say no, we don't want to work with you. They can deny you automatically.
Exactly. Especially if you had a
pre-existing condition.
What's it called now? A pre-existing type thing. That was the worst, man.
Yeah.
I have a pre-existing. Just imagine trying to get insurance if they still had that stipulation where, oh, we're not going to give you insurance because you have a pre-existing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how they can just get away with not even addressing it. Like, he still didn't bring up like how, I guess Mike Pence was told like, how are you going to get rid of Obamacare? What are you going to do for healthcare? And they kept dancing around the issue, just like they have no answer.
Like they always do. It's
funny because I remember back in the day when Trump was running, in 2020, like they kept asking him, like you keep talking about you're gonna produce a healthcare plan or healthcare system, and you never do. He's like, yeah, when you get me reelected, that's when I'll produce it. And it's like it's the same situation.
Exactly.
Just gaslight everyone, hoping that they're gonna get something, and nothing comes out of it.
Oh, remember when he was in office? In 2 weeks, that was his favorite word.
Oh,
in 2 weeks, we're gonna have a healthcare plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on its way. We're gonna release it.
Yeah, 2 weeks. We're gonna have the bestest healthcare plan that you ever had.
It's just like his taxes, you know. Oh yeah, it's gonna be released. You know, it takes a little while for the audits to go through.
Yeah, the audit. Yeah, I'm being audited. Yes, exactly.
Man. I don't know. I feel like there's less back and forth fighting in this time around. They had that one time of going after Vivek, but other than that, it seems like it's just been pretty straightforward.
It's pretty tame this time around. It didn't really do as much as what they did before. All of them had to come out the gate swinging, and I guess right now they're trying their best to not be as, I don't know, as obnoxious, especially Vivek.
Yeah, I think Vivek was going on hard last time, but now I guess he wants to. But like he had a boost for like a couple of weeks, but after that it just died down. So I don't know what he's expecting to change.
Oh, the goodness, the interview he did with Mehdi. Is it Mehdi?
Oh, Mehdi Hassan. Yeah.
Yeah, that interview. He destroyed him.
Yeah, I watched that. That was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I really liked what he did with that dude. He didn't know what hit him. It was like, what the hell just happened?
Let me check the polls and see what's going on between all of them. At least, because it looks like, yeah, it's crazy how much Trump's beating all of them. 39-point advantage, 43-point advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have no shot.
This man predicted he would have to shoot somebody. Even if he shot somebody, he would not lose his base. Those people are friggin'. It's a cult. It's not a. The Republican Party is never going to be the same, and they might as well just tear up all the charters and start from scratch, because these megas are that rabid about this man, and there's nobody else that they would consider. No one else is even compared to this guy.
Okay, I think they're coming back around. Here we go. Where's the mouse?
Reagan Presidential Library in the Air Force One Pavilion for the second Republican debate. And let's get back to our questions, Governor Haley. American students, they are in academic trouble. They have lower scores in math and reading. There's chronic absenteeism. That's at record highs. And this has even been called education homicide. You say school choice is the answer, but South Carolina, your home state, still has not
education
enacted universal
homicide.
School choice, and even the current expansion
homicide?
won't be fully implemented until 2027.
What the hell is that?
Parents can't wait 4 years for a fix. So what would you do right now?
Well, in school choice isn't the only answer, but I'll tell you it's not out of a lack of trying. We didn't try and get school choice in South Carolina. What I'll tell you first of all is we have to...
Yeah, I guess they don't know what else to say, so they have to make it look as bad as possible to, give them a layup.
Of our 8th graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And recently they came out and said our 12 and 13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring in reading and math in decades. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools, and let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back included. We've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have the jobs of the next generation.
They want to get rid of all diversity, man. It's like this chick and all of them who talk about the diversity issue. They're not calling it woke anymore, right? You notice how DeSantis hasn't used the word woke?
Yep, woke died out.
That was everything out of his mouth was woke. Everything was woke after a while. Now you've never heard of it. Now they talk about diversity as in terms of the CRT and all that stuff. But the woke thing is gone now. That thing's been played out.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all they say was DEI, diversity training. That's the new woke now. So because they realize they overuse this so much that and no one knows what it means anymore.
He used it so much. He used everything out of his mouth was woke.
Now you don't even hear him. I don't think he said woke once in the whole debate.
No, and he won't. He won't hear it again. He knows it's not working. He worked in Florida to get him elected. Mm-hmm. All he talked about was woke. And he thought he can woke his way all the way to the presidency. And people like, dude, what is woke? Tell us what the hell woke is, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can answer that because they were using it for minorities, gay people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it was that they didn't like, and they didn't want to say the person or say the thing. They used woke in its place.
Yeah, it's just plain laziness.
We did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school districts in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randi Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They're taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be.
Wait, because his wife is a teacher?
The teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Florida's new Black History curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. You have said slaves develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it. But many are still hurt. For descendants of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6', 5, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice. We enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights.
Kids are even in public schools.
Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Senator Scott, you oppose to these new standards. What is your message for Governor DeSantis?
There is not a redeeming quality in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken the one sentence out. America has suffered because of slavery. but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth. And frankly, the city on the hill needs a brand new leader. And I'm asking for your vote.
I'm going to have a question for you, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Oh my God.
Over 10.7 million students in over 18,000 public schools nationwide have the ability to change their identity without parental notification. Governor Christie told Stewart last week that he would pass a federal law to protect parental rights. Would you try to do the same?
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
Specifically on parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not compassionate to affirm a kid's confusion. That is not compassion, that is cruelty. I met two young women, Chloe and Katie, early in this campaign, who are in their 20s, now regret getting double mastectomies and a hysterectomy. One of them will never have children. And the fact that we allowed that to happen in this country is barbaric. So I will ban genital mutilation or chemical castration under the age of 18, and parents have absolutely
Would you try to pass a federal law that says parents should have that right?
We are going to require states absolutely have to follow that through.
I want to ask Governor Burgum just to follow up on this because you in your state, you do not have a law that says parents can't be notified, but you want to be president. Would you try to pass a federal law to say parents have that right?
I think this is a state's issue, but I do want to say something, because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or healthcare or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer. So in North Dakota, instead of fighting with the teachers unions, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is the student.
But you do understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about, worried about parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things the federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education. That needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota.
They're claiming as though that kids can somehow have some kind of surgery without their parents being aware of it.
I have no idea. I get lost when I go into this whole
and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts. They can get credit for all of that stuff. And by the way, North Dakota is now at the top of the median SAT scores in the country right now.
Dude, his face is so weird. It's like it's melting.
The Department of Homeland Security warns that violence against LGBTQ plus people is on the rise and intensifying. According to a recent study, members of that community are 9 times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. As president, how would you protect this community from violent attacks and discrimination?
Well, as President of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety and the civil liberties of every American.
Conversion therapy.
From every background. And I want the American people to know that. But I want to answer the question as well, Dana, that you just asked Doug Burgum. Because by way of full disclosure, Chris, you mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit, I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. And
really, dude?
Full disclosure.
Weird.
Look, education is a state and local function.
He's trying to make jokes or trying to be light or stuff, but he's terrible at it.
Oh my God. In the state of Indiana, we doubled it. And as to your question, Dana, let's be very, very clear. When the Linn-Mar Community Schools in Iowa had a policy where you had to have a permission slip from your parents to get a Tylenol, but you could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents. I weighed in with a foundation. That's not bad policy. That's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country.
Yep,
We've got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state level with the ability to choose where their kids go to school, whether it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool. You empower parents, and our schools will straighten up and reflect our values and focus on the basics faster than you could possibly imagine.
Next subject.
Can I just say one thing?
China is investing. If you talk over everybody, please lose time. China is investing heavily in their tech companies. $280 billion every year on semiconductor research and development. That is one CHIPS Act per year. Governor DeSantis, you say companies like Google and Meta have too much power. Doesn't going after them give China an edge?
No, I think you look at how our societies develop, they have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have subcontracted out so much of our national needs to the CCP. We rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important industries. We need to get that back in the United States. They are our top geopolitical adversary by a country mile. Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat them on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as President of the United States.
Governor Christie, I wanted to follow up on this because 22% of American workers fear their jobs will be lost to a robot. And you said in the past that the free market is the way to go. Would you retrain workers who lose a job to artificial intelligence, and to do what?
Well, look, what I think artificial intelligence offers us is an extraordinary opportunity to expand well beyond the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining for folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and governmental innovator. And that's why America has to continue to stand strong in the world, pro-innovation, pro-progress. And I will tell you this, as President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
Mr. Ramaswamy, TikTok is banned on government-issued devices because of its ties to the Chinese government. Yet you joined TikTok at the dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul. Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16, should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people, and that's me. And let me level with all of you. I'm the new guy here, and so I know I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people, the best and brightest in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many of the people on this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That is what makes America great. And that is why we will end it once we win this election.
I have to jump. I have to jump in here. I'm sorry. There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say. Because I can't believe the TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get text messages, they can get all of these things.
This is
China
very important
knows
for our party.
exactly what they're
This
doing.
is very
And
important
what
for our
we've
party, and I'm
seen
going to
is
say
you've gone and you've helped China make medicines in China, not America. You're now wanting kids to go and get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you. We can't have TikTok and we need to ban it.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 15 seconds.
I think, excuse me.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you. I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate about policy following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe in these people. These are good people on the stage. They disagree, but let's have a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Stuart, can we get back to the question?
No, we cannot. Governor DeSantis, I'm going straight.
On this stage,
Sir, we will have to cut your mic, and I don't want to do that. I don't. So, Governor DeSantis, let me go to you. Experts say President Putin has ordered assassinations across Europe, cheated on arms control treaties with the U.S., and seeks to work with China to force our decline. President Reagan believed that if you want to prevent a war, you better be prepared to fight one. Today, the Republican Party is at odds over aid to Ukraine. The price tag so far is $76 billion. But is it in our best interest to degrade Russia's military for less than 5% of what we pay annually on defense, especially when there are no U.S. soldiers in the fight?
It's in our interest to end this war, and that's what I will do as president. We are not going to have a blank check. We will not have U.S. troops, and we're going to make the Europeans do what they need to do. But they've sent money to pay bureaucrats' pensions and salaries and funding small businesses halfway around the world. Meanwhile, our own country is being invaded. We don't even have control of our own territory. We have got to defend the American people before we even worry about all these other things. And I watch these guys in Washington, D.C., and they don't care about the American people. They don't care about the fentanyl deaths. They don't care about the communities being overrun because of this border. They don't care about the Mexican drug cartels. So as Commander-in-Chief, I will defend this country's sovereignty.
But it's not a territorial dispute. It's never been a territorial dispute.
And 90% of the resources that we send over to Ukraine is guaranteed as a loan. It is not 90% of the money that we send over there is loan. Well, we can talk about this, but at the end of the day, 90% of the money that we send over there is actually in the form of loan. It's not actually not being paid by Ukraine. It's paid by the NATO, our NATO allies.
So I think it's a good topic.
I think it's a really good topic too. But I will say let's debate the fact that our national vital interest is in degrading the Russian military. By degrading the Russian military, we actually keep our homeland safer, we keep our troops at home, and we all understand Article 5 of NATO.
We have to level with the American people.
I thought you said something about waiting until your turn to talk. So hold on. So at the end of the day, I'm going to finish my. I'll be happy to
go ahead, and I'll respond.
I'll look forward to this one right now. So at the end of the day, when you think about the fact that if you want to keep American troops at home, the attack on NATO territory would bring us and our troops in. By degrading the Russian military, we reduce, if not eliminate, an attack on NATO territory.
Finish that exchange. We have to level with the American people. We have to level with the American people on this issue. The reality is, just because Putin is not Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
A win
that
for Russia is a win for China.
We're driving
a win
Russia.
For Russia is a win for China.
Excuse me, if you have
but
a chance,
I forgot you like China. That's why
you'll have your chance in just a moment. The hurling personal insults isn't helping. China is the real enemy, and we're driving Russia further into China's arms. We need a reasonable peace plan to end this, especially if this is a country whose president just last week was hailing a Nazi in his own ranks.
Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan.
We need
the
a
peace comes through strength.
We need a reasonable plan to peace.
Governor Christie.
The Communist Party of China is the real enemy.
They're all shouting him down.
Governor Christie, President Biden's first 2 years have brought China, Russia, and Iran closer together. Are we focused too much on Ukraine and not enough on this threat from the New World Order?
No, they're all connected, Stuart. They're all connected. The Chinese are paying for the Russian war in Ukraine. The Iranians are supplying more sophisticated weapons, and so are the North Koreans now as well, with the encouragement of the Chinese. The naivete on this stage from some of these folks is extraordinary. Look, I understand people want to go and talk to Putin. Guess what? So did George W. Bush. So did Barack Obama. So did Donald Trump. And so did Joe Biden when he said a small invasion wouldn't be so bad. Every one of them has been wrong. And the fact of the matter is, we need to say right now that the Chinese-Russian alliance is something we have to fight against, and we are not going to solve it by going over and cuddling up to Vladimir Putin. Look, Donald Trump said Vladimir Putin was brilliant and a great leader. This is the person who is murdering people in his own country, and now not having enough blood, he's now going to Ukraine to murder innocent civilians and kidnap 20,000 children. And let me tell you, if you think that's where it's going to stop, if we give him any of Ukraine, next will be Poland. This is a guy who said, this is a guy in 1991 who said that was the darkest moment in world history when the Soviet Union fell. Listen, everybody, he wants to put the old band back together, and only America can stop it. And when I'm president, we will.
Governor Burgum, I want to get to Governor Burgum. He hasn't had a chance. I have a question I think you're going to really like, or at least you have experience in it. And we need to talk about America's farmers, because there is a foreign policy connection here. The U.S. and China are in this fierce economic competition. It's hurting American businesses, and there is blowback against American farmers because China then targets them in retaliation. How would you, as president, protect American farmers and ranchers from that kind of retaliation from a foreign government like China?
Well, first of all, we've got the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in America. If they have a level playing field, they can outcompete anyone in the world. But this is part of the larger issue that we're talking about here, which is we're in a Cold War with China. The Biden administration won't admit that. But we're also in an economic war through what we're doing with agriculture and energy. And we're also in a war with them relative to cyber war. We get attacked every day in North Dakota, every state, every school district, our tribes, all being attacked every day by either China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea. And now we've got a Biden administration whose whole policy is appeasement. They're out there, creating the world, making it less safe. $6 billion they traded for 5 people. They've just now set a price on anyone's head who's a tourist from America, who's a student from America, for a kidnapping. If you want more kidnapping, put a price on it. And they're also helping Iran get to have more closer to nuclear weapon, which pushes all of the Middle East closer to China and Russia. The whole thing is absurd. And then, of course, we're going to give Ukraine to Russia, and then we're going to give Taiwan to China and think that's a foreign policy, that will make our nation less successful, make us more poor. And at the core of all that is energy policy, because China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're the largest importer in the world, and we've had 4 cabinet members from the Biden administration there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go to each of those countries was Kerry to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Can I speak
Governor Haley, Mexico's president called who supports sending U.S. military into the country, quote, scoundrels. Mexico is the United States' most important trade partner and border security. You say you will send special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. So, this means...
I'm sorry, what you said?
It looks like a birthmark on her neck.
Oh, yeah. Most likely. It's probably she didn't put a makeup or anything on it. Yeah.
A concealer on it, you know?
Boots on the ground, drone strikes.
It means special operations. It's how we deal with our terrorists. And what you need to do is understand that Mexico's not being a good partner if we lost 75,000 Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away with. What we will do is we will make sure that we send in our special operations, and we will take out the cartels, we'll take out their operations, we'll take out anything that's doing it. But we're going to go after China, because China is the one sending the fentanyl in the first place. And we will end all normal trade relations until China stops sending fentanyl. And then we'll do the special operations, and we'll get it from both sides. This is where President Trump went wrong. He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the fact that they were stealing $600 billion in intellectual property. He didn't focus on the fact that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells. We need to start focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That hasn't happened in a long time. As your president, I will make sure every American is safe, and we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen.
All right. I want to get to Senator Scott. You're all auditioning for the job as President of the United States. You want to earn these votes. But the world's problems land in the Oval Office. During the presidential debates in the year 2000, neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush was asked about Al-Qaeda. Yet, just 1 year later, Al-Qaeda's attack on September 11th claimed nearly 3,000 lives. And the farther we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. Senator Scott, you have no executive branch experience. What has prepared you to protect the nation from a major man-made national security crisis?
One of the things I've had the good fortune of doing is serving on committees in the United States Senate, like the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but also on the Finance Committee and the Banking Committee. Talk about addressing the issue of fentanyl. I've written the legislation passed it.
Did you hear that he had a girlfriend now?
The Senate that would freeze the assets and sanction the accounts of the Mexican cartels. There are weapons that we have within the arsenal.
Has she made an
that I
appearance
was
yet?
able to get
I've not
past
seen her once.
23-0 in the polarizing Senate as it is. I've
Sounds
also
like a Lindsey
understood
Graham
without
situation.
question the fact that if you look at the details before 9/11, there was information and intelligence that was available that suggested an attack was coming. Having the right intelligence partners with us is key to making sure that we prevent the next 9/11 from ever happening. Having that
Congress
experience
or
in the
anywhere?
last 10 years is really
Wait, what's up?
important in getting the job done.
30 seconds to you, Mr. Pence.
Hold up.
Well, I think you asked a question about executive experience. I think it's vitally important. And I stand before you today as a candidate for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble.
This is gonna be boring. So what were you saying?
Is there a Republican senator or congressperson that is openly gay?
No. The closest there is, I mean, there's always the same talk going around with Lindsey Graham, but he's never been open about it. But yeah, there's never been one. I think the closest they have is not a senator, but a congressman.
Is there an openly gay congressman who is Republican?
Yeah, the guy from New York, the one that was lying about his life. crap. What is his name?
Yes. Yeah. The guy who lied about everything on his resume and did everything. Yeah, that guy. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's the only one I can think of.
Yep, that's true. He would be that person.
Yeah, I know there's one. Well, I thought Liz Cheney was gay, but because I remember they were saying that Dick Cheney had a gay daughter, but I guess he has another daughter.
No, it's another daughter.
Yeah, that's why I always thought she was gay.
Daughter, but it's not Liz Cheney. No. They have another. She disowned her. The thing, here's the story. When Cheney was vice president back in the day, right? Liz was coming up through the ranks, and they literally tried to hide the fact that his other daughter was gay, and Liz had to disown her in order to kind of like move up in rank in terms of like being that person. So she disowned her own sister to get the position that she then lost a couple of years back because of Trumpito.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't really worth it doing all that. Trump just kicked her out either way.
Yeah.
See, I thought she might have been. I thought it might have been her because she seems very like rough, kind of like dry, and like she didn't seem very feminine. So I thought that was her, but I guess it was another sister. I'm assuming she probably eventually like told her like, hey, I gotta do it for the cameras or whatever.
I think Liz Cheney was married.
No, yeah, I just thought that I never follow her past or her life, so I just assumed because her persona comes across kind of like brash, like kind of.
It does. It does. But if I'm not mistaken, I think she's married.
I think she probably is.
Yeah, she's married and has a child. Married and had a child. Yep. So, but her sister definitely gay, and she disowned her sister to raise up the ranks back in the day.
Damn.
I don't know if she was. But I mean, Lindsay should just give it up in terms of coming out. Come on, really, Lindsay?
Yeah, like you're not fooling anybody, and everyone knows. Not. I don't know about Tim Scott though. I'm wondering if there's something there because like you never see him with a chick. He never talks about his life.
I think Tim Scott is gay. I think Cory Booker is gay. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of those who are trying to play the role and won't come out.
I don't know why Cory Booker would hide it because like he's in New Jersey. Like no one cares in New Jersey. I mean New Jersey is a little bit more.
Yeah. But remember, he had hopes of the presidency the last run. You know what I'm saying?
I think he was dating. Wasn't he dating Rosario Dawson? I think during that time.
Supposedly, yes,
okay.
Yes. That was a cover, man. I think I really do believe that he's gay. Everyone knows that Lindsey Graham is gay. Come on, really? And so but he's in the deep South in South Carolina. Ain't none of them having that. Come on.
Yeah, I mean South Carolina is not progressive at all, but it's just. I guess if no one asked him, I don't think anyone ever asked him to his face, like, hey, are you straight? Are you gay? Like, you've been a bachelor all your life, and, like, no one's brought it up that I can think of.
Nah, no one has. It's like, oh, yeah. It's like, no one has mentioned this. It's a non-factor with Lindsey Graham. It's like, has anyone ever said, Lindsey, are you gay? I mean, you know what I'm saying? But no. No. But they're questioning Scott on that. They're questioning him like every chance they get. Where's your girlfriend? You know what I'm saying? Where's this girlfriend that you supposedly have? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, it's like, hey, if you want to embrace, you should embrace that. That might make you different, but the party is not going to stand for it. No. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's parties.
Even though they got backers. Many are backers who are gay.
Robert Teal?
And yes.
But, yeah, it's the state where they're coming from, so they know they can't. They probably won't win if they come out.
Yeah. The party's not ready. honestly, politics is not remedy. I don't, even though Pete Buttigieg is, I pronounce it, even though he's openly gay and he's been down the road of trying to become president, I think we're a long way away from having our first gay president. We're way away from that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, hold on, they're back.
Taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home than to go to work. That is wrong. That contributes to our supply chain crisis. It contributes to inflation. That's the easiest way to unlock this economy. And here's the other thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency that has gone rogue. So in January 2026, when I have the opportunity as your next commander-in-chief, we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority on dollar stability, and then most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state, reduce the federal employee headcount by 75%, rescind 50% of unconstitutional federal regulations that are shackling businesses both large and small. I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it. That's how we unleash the economy. That's how we revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic rather than this technocracy and aristocracy in the administrative state.
Response, please.
I think one of the signature accomplishments of our administration was in just a few short years, we achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75 years.
That's some bullshit.
On day one, Joe Biden declared war on energy, which was no surprise because when Joe Biden ran for president, he said he was going to end fossil fuels. And they've been working overtime to do that ever since. If I'm president of the United States, we're going to open up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy independence, but in 2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on Earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on Earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that, please.
The only person who's leading an energy state, can I answer the energy question?
No, Governor Haley. So, the first thing I'll say is what I saw at the United Nations is national security. Energy security is national security. We need a president that understands we have to partner with our producers and make sure that we have their backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against fracking. He's against drilling. He's been against. You did it. He always talks about what happens on day one. You better watch out because what happens on day two is when you're in trouble. Day two in Florida, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned. You have the right to respond. 30 seconds.
Yeah. I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus over the Mullahs, and we're going to choose Bakken over Beijing, and we are going to lower your gas prices. We are going to get that job done because it's important for our national security, it's important for jobs, and that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
Governor DeSantis, this question is for you.
Our voters enacted a constitutional amendment that doesn't allow. No, it's not true.
You banned it before they voted, and not only that, fracking wasn't. They didn't vote on fracking.
She's totally wrong. They voted it in. That's what we did. Onshore, we do it in Florida. We don't have as much as maybe West Texas, but we do it. But that was a constitutional amendment. So that's just wrong. And let's just get real here. My plan will get the job done. We are going to be energy dominant, and that's what's going to happen.
And the voters didn't even vote on fracking, and you banned
We
fracking.
are moving on with this question for Governor DeSantis.
At least somebody's going after them. Nobody can laugh
over each other. We must respect each other's time.
As opposed to Vivek.
I'm ready, Steve.
We're all going after Vivek.
This is your question. The Biden administration is hell-bent on student loan forgiveness. But you say colleges should be on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt. How does that address the cost of college? The cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great learning opportunities? No, they're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11, because I was just at the 9/11 memorial with the families. My wife and I were invited. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that. I've been a blue-collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin, Florida. I ended up getting through Yale and Harvard Law School and somehow came out more conservative than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California, North Island, and feeling that breeze off the Pacific Ocean and say, you know what? I am lucky to have been born an American, and I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served overseas in a war. I think that's going to help me as commander-in-chief to know how you see these issues and understand that there are real lives at stake for people that we're in.
You know what I'm saying? Serve overseas in a war. You heard that, right? Serve.
Scott, the national debt is
He was
nearly
a fucking
doubled in your time in office. The approval rate for Congress is at a mere 19%.
Lawyer.
If this were a business,
He wasn't in no
you'd probably
combat.
be fired in Washington, but you're here tonight looking for a promotion. In 2013, Governor Haley hired you for the Senate. I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation instead of her.
Certainly. One of the things I'd say is if you look at our national debt of $33 trillion, I would love to have an opportunity to have this country pass a balanced budget amendment. That would constrain the spending in Washington in the same fashion that it does in every state in our nation, number one. Number two, if you want to actually reduce our national debt, you have to grow our economy. In order to grow our economy, you need to create about 10 million jobs to grow our economy at 5%. You can do that in three specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector. We could create between 3 and 3.5 million jobs if we unleashed all of our energy resources. America is we're the richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil. Why not unleash all of our resources?
Dude, we're done
Number
with
two,
coal.
we've lost 100,000 factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we continued on my Made in America plan, we could bring jobs back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We actually
Didn't he ask her about saying
to
something against
21%, reshored or repatriated
Yep.
$1.7 trillion.
Like,
We brought the
why should you be president over her?
African Americans, Hispanics,
Yeah.
and Asians to
I
the
thought that was the
lowest
question.
level in the history of the country, and a 70-year low for women.
Governor Haley, would you think you would deserve the
first of
promotion
all,
over
I think,
him?
look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given him
She went for the
400
jugular.
times
Exactly. That's what he should be doing.
He increased the
He
national
tried to be
debt
diplomatic. She was like,
He has made
you
sure
ain't
that
did
the
asked
growth
him
that
to
they got
pay
up
gas
there,
tax
look at
increase in
everything that's
South
happened.
Carolina.
12 years. Where have you been? Where have you been?
She ain't scared to come after them.
He let her talk.
Nothing has
He
happened.
let her talk.
Thing that I just find interesting.
Ron, let me finish
All
this
these
first.
guys have said
Here's the
things,
fact.
and I appreciate them.
See, the thing is, they wanted him to attack her, but she's the only one attacking everyone here. She's the only one that has, like, it seems like she's the only one that has the balls to go after everyone. But they all kind of play niceties, you know. There's no time for that.
Right. They're trying to be diplomatic. You're trying to go and go up against the 45, man.
Yeah, are you trying to win? Because, like, this is just the prelim before you actually fight against Trump. If you actually want to go on the stage with him, you can't, like, just play this bullshit, you know?
Yes. It's like, really? You think you better take her lead and go after the jugular. Come
Exactly.
on.
A lot of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm
Haley.
the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida. And that's what it's all about. You can always talk, but when it gets hot in
Christy,
there,
man, where
when they're
you at,
shooting
bro?
arrows
Jump
at
in
you,
here,
are you going to
Christy.
be stand up
Jump
for parents'
in.
rights, keep
What
the state
happened?
free? Are you going to be able to do all those things? And in the state of Florida, because of our success, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. We have won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked
How
about
about the
it.
CEO? We actually have a CEO in the White House. Which is what I think we need. If I may just briefly interject here. We need a zero-based budgeting. That's the way businesses are actually run. Start with zero as the baseline for the budget, and then see what's actually necessary. There isn't a blue state or a red state in this union that does it. The federal government doesn't do it, but successful companies, including the ones that I've built as a CEO, will do it. And I think we need a CEO in the White House to make that happen.
Governor Burgum runs the state that way.
You have
Yes,
tech
go ahead.
questions, you didn't ask the only guy that's been in tech. You have energy questions, you don't ask anything. But I'm just going to say right now, when you say nobody else has done it, the energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans they're already talking about, we've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop transnational criminal organizations from inflicting the invasion and the mass casualties in our state. And on the energy policy, we're already doing it. It's not saying when nobody else done the big fights, North Dakota was leading the charge. We won the battle to get the Biden administration, who was ignoring the law. They were the first administration since Truman that wasn't holding the quarterly required lease sales, and we won that in federal court. WOTUS, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden administration on 20 fronts. To say that nobody's fighting the big fights, just look at the record of what we're doing right now. Energy, economy, national security, I've been talking about it since day one, and now finally good, we're having the conversation about it, but we've got the answer in North Dakota.
Governor Burgum, let's talk big government. This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger. 1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor Burgum, you say you want to shrink the size of government, but it has been a century since any president has done that. Why would you be any different?
Well, because we've done it in North Dakota. When I took
give him another
office,
question?
we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was office, and all the trains still running on time. Why? Because you had a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government job, there's 10 or 20% of mind-numbing, soul-sucking work that even the state and federal employees don't want to do, and you can engineer that work out of the job. That would free up right there 20% of 2 million civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be in generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible to do it if you have somebody that understands, because having worked in technology for 30 years, everything we had to do was to be better, faster, and cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's what we're doing in North Dakota.
All right, Governor DeSantis. I want to ask you about something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in 2022. Republicans lost all of them. Next year, abortion will likely be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win state. Governor DeSantis, how are you going to win over independent, pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading purposing conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I, earlier today, were at the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, every single person has purpose and worth. We're better off when everybody counts. And I think we should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
Infanticide, my goodness.
Governor Christie, do you think the Republicans... Okay, Governor Christie, do you think the Republicans can do that in Arizona if this referendum is on the ballot there?
Yeah, because I did it in New Jersey, Dana.
Then why are all these other states losing?
Well, because they don't have leaders in those states who are leading the fight the way it should be led. And in fact is, look, I was a governor here of the only blue state that's represented up here. This is where the fight is really tough for Republicans. And those are the states that we're going to have to try to win if we're going to win the White House back. And what we did is 14 times, Dana, in 8 years, I vetoed Planned Parenthood funding. 14 times. No one else gets it that much. The Democrats just kept sending it to me, and I kept saying no because I believe in life, but I also believe in states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. But what you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl tonight, and we haven't spoken one moment about treatment. But we need to make sure that for the drug-addicted 16-year-old on the floor of the county lockup, her life is precious too. And we need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos because I told them the truth from my heart.
Thank you. Vice President Pence, the latest Univision poll found that 73% of Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about or is being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that tax cut and tax reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low for women. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a champion for the American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm, and it begins with every ethnic group in this country. And I promise you, if I'm President of the United States, I'll be a champion. I'll be a champion for the American dream, for Hispanic Americans, and for every American. So help me God.
Senator Scott, reaction?
Yes, there's no doubt that if you lead by example, it's the best way to get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate, my chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered...
You want to try to go back at Nikki now?
Yeah, it's a bit too late now.
Go back at Nikki now.
Someone who
after she
got a federal dollar she doesn't like. 10 cents on this gallon in South Carolina as the UN ambassador. You literally put $50,000 on curtains in a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment. And you want to know what that 10 cent was? When they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment, the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will pass it if you will give us three.
All you have to do is go watch Nikki Haley on YouTube.
If you will give me 3 times the deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas tax, which is why it didn't happen. Secondly, on the 50 million.
Here is a nice part.
Oh, she's tearing them. She's tearing them a new one.
Because Obama bought those companies.
Yeah, she's a better debater than him.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
He sent the wrong check the wrong
You're the one
day.
that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh,
You get it.
you hung them on your curtains.
They were there before
And
anything
she
showed
wants
up at the residence.
she wants them to come at her. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come after me. Come after me.
You know I fought the president.
Here's a fact, though.
I don't know who's even writing this conversation. Like, I don't know the details about South Carolina.
See, now that was Ron trying to jump in here. Ron trying to jump in. That's the kind of story
in just a few moments.
Yeah, that was some craziness right there, man. I don't know. Nikki Haley does seem like she has more fight in her than Tim Scott and some of these other cats. Like, she actually would go after people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I can see her. I mean, because I know Trump needs to pick a woman because he's doing horrible with women right now. But I think I can see her being a good pick because she's proven herself that she can fight. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake, she's a fighter, but like she has so much negatives with her. Like she's so like divisive. I don't know how she'll help him in any way. but
Carrie Lake is too much like him.
Yeah, exactly.
Nikki, I mean, Nikki is so much better.
You need someone to balance
Nikki
you
would
out.
be so much better. Yeah, she plus it's like it's kind of similar to Kamala. You know what I'm saying? Kamala is mixed, right?
Yeah.
So Nikki's not mixed, but Nikki's not mixed.
They're both
but
Indian.
She's also they're both of Indian descent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that could be a benefit to him. Just having this brown woman beside him, right?
Mm-hmm.
To try and balance him out. But who is going to be this man's vice president after he gets convicted?
Yeah. Who's gonna take that? Because like you're gonna be like that stink is gonna stay on you. Like let's say for instance he loses and then you're the VP. The chances of you running again and having the option to like separate yourself from Trump is not gonna look good, you know. But
exactly.
Yeah. Who knows?
Because the first thing they're going to ask him, coming at him about, okay, he was charged, he lost the rape case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, that was done. He's been indicted 91 times. I mean, 91 counts, 4 indictments, and it's probably going to be more by come next year. All the states that he tried to finagle are going to bring cases against him. Michigan's going to bring one. Arizona's going to bring one. So, I mean, really? This man is going to be so toxic by the time the election comes around. Who wants to be his fucking vice president?
Yeah. So I was looking at the chat. So someone's saying that that we should get like AOC to run instead of Biden. I'm like, I don't know. That's not a good idea personally because AOC is not ready. She's only been a congresswoman. She doesn't for like a few years. She doesn't have like she never won a state race.
Who's saying in what chat? Who's chat?
In the YouTube chat, Eco Seeker was mentioning AOC and some other just mentioning that we should get somebody more progressive. I get where he's coming from, but like AOC has so much like baggage, like with like if you need to win independence, that's gonna be a hard person to win. But and also she's only a congresswoman. She's not even a senator or a governor. Like usually people who at least won a statewide election tends to have better shot of winning the presidency.
We're a long way from AOC.
Yeah, probably in like
getting
20, 30 something.
Long
you know,
way.
she has to like
she's not even close. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, she's been in the Congress for like 5 years. It's not even that long.
Yeah. Oh, you got a bunch of people in the chat. Wow, look at that.
Josh was like,
Trump's gonna pick the
hottest chick. I mean, I can see that happening. Like, I'll believe it.
Well, then, I think the hottest one right now would probably be Kristi Noem. Wouldn't she? Wouldn't she probably be the...
Yeah, is she a governor, or what is her deal?
Governor, yeah, she's governor of Omaha or something like that.
Yeah, right? some really red state. Yeah, I can see him picking her.
She's probably the best looking. She's younger than all of them. She's younger than Lake. She's younger than Nikki Haley, right? He's not gonna pick Green or Bloomberg,
oh yeah.
Right?
Marjorie Taylor Greene is too crazy. I think she has no name, like good name recognition.
Right.
Lauren Boebert.
And if you look at it, Boebert is probably the best looking out of them all, right? But she's a nut.
Yeah.
And she got all kinds of problems. I mean, issues with her family.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Her husband showing her showing himself to a lady.
She just separated from her husband, and she's up there giving hand jobs to some dude in a theater and
getting felt up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
She has a whole mess, and she probably not gonna win a re-election because she barely won. But I think like maybe on a couple hundred votes. Yeah. She barely won, and all her drama now, she's probably not gonna win this time around. Oh, okay, hold on, they're back.
Yeah, okay.
Should be voted off the island.
Wait a minute.
Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds.
Are you serious?
Starting now. Of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here. Like,
are they playing Survivor?
I think that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants to participate.
They're doing some kind of Survivor thing. She was mentioning like there's a piece of paper on your thing, so write who you would want to be like taken off, you know, and he was trying to be like, oh, I'm above it or whatever.
What is your mathematical path,
Yes.
Governor DeSantis, in order to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race?
So polls don't elect presidents. Voters elect presidents.
Right.
And we're going to take the case of the people in these early states. We're going to do it in the state-by-state direction. And why? Because as Reagan said in his day, this is our time for choosing. We are not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. Republicans have lost 3 straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned. Not in Florida, it didn't. We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023, they'll be able to address the nation saying, we turned the economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something. Governor Christie, I believe, excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something on the card.
No, but I'll certainly tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. Look,
What?
I think I've been the only one on this stage
Write
who's been
something
clear
on the
about
card.
this.
Oh, they said that they saw him like starting to write something on the card, and he was denying it pretty much. Like, cause like, you know, the cards were there for like we're gonna vote somebody off or whatever, and they said, oh, I think I saw you starting to write something down, so they were calling him out to see if he was actually gonna pick someone to be off the stage or whatever, or who's not gonna be on the next debate, I guess.
Oh.
Just calling him out. It was dumb.
I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island, but
any of the people on the stage,
you know what? Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican voters to come here to express their views honestly, candidly, and directly, and to take your questions honestly. I have respect for every man and woman on this stage because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got time, dude. So chill out. Here, look. This guy has not only divided our party, he's divided families all over this country. He's divided friends all over this country. I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump. He needs to be voted off the island, and he needs to be taken out of this process.
Can we get Vivek 15 seconds? Vivek.
15 seconds, Vivek.
Look, I have a different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president, but the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next level? When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we did not just hunger for a single man. We hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. So yes, I will respect Donald Trump and his legacy because it's the right thing to do. But we will unite this country to take the America First agenda to the next level, and that will take a different generation to do it.
That does it. I repeat, that does it. For the second Republican primary debate, live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library.
Thank you to all the candidates. We've loved having you here tonight, and we will see you out on the campaign trail.
Have a great evening. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Good night. Buenas noches.
So it's not like they kind of cut their option of doing like a closing arguments or whatever. They kind of just ended it at that point. Yeah, it just got like, I don't know. He said one point.
They just cut it off.
Yeah, they just cut it
off, right?
Yeah, that was different. It was definitely less sparks, I guess, in this debate. I mean, other than what, you know, Nikki Haley going after people, but because I feel like there was more like back and forth on the last debate. I guess Ramaswamy was trying to hold himself back more than last time.
He didn't want to be more. He didn't want to be more of an asshole this time. You know what I'm saying?
He must have got some bad results.
This one. Who do you feel had the best debate?
Definitely Nikki Haley. I think she was smart to go after everybody.
I'm gonna say with Nikki Haley too. She's 2 in a row. 2 in a row. I think she was the best on the first one, and you know, aside from Vivek, everybody coming after him. They need to take that billionaire governor off the thing. He's trash. Let's see. Pence is done. I mean, don't nobody care about him.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing.
And Chris Christie, I thought that Chris Christie was going to do some things this time. He got more airtime, but it just didn't work out in the same way. I'm like, really, Chris Christie? Come on, man. You're talking about Donald Trump all the time. Bring it, man. Bring it to the hill.
I guess he was maybe wondering. I think he was hoping that Vivek was going to come after him like he did last time, which didn't happen. So they didn't give him much fuel to shine more. But like no one else like went after him. Like no one went after him. Nobody went because like no one wants to support Trump. They want to be their own person and shine on themselves. So like in that case, he didn't really have much to say about like giving a message to everybody. So it kind of felt like his whole deal is like I'm just gonna shit on Trump, but he had nothing else to say other than that. I think Vivek did that shined the most in the last debate because he went after people calling them all fake or what do you call them?
Right.
All bought off or whatever, and he had a lot of other points. Yeah, bought and paid for. I think that was like big lines in that debate, but. Yeah, you see how Tim Scott tried to go after Nikki Haley, and it was just
after the fact.
weak.
After the fact, though.
Yeah, and she's like, "Bring it on! Come on, what you got?" Yeah, it was weak. I don't know. I don't know what to expect moving forward though with these people.
Yeah, it didn't cut the mustard on this one, man. It was like, really.
And next time around, I think they're gonna have to up their requirements on who can be on the stage again. So
yeah.
Probably like somebody was mentioning that it's probably gonna be just DeSantis, Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley. I think maybe Tim Scott might stick around or Christie. I think Mike Pence might go because he just don't have much. Like how much support does he really have? I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, right now it just seems good to be the fact that they're trying to jockey position who's going to be second, and unless they get Trump on that stage, man, it ain't going to be too much of nothing, and there's no reason for him to be up there. None of them give him a reason for him to be up there. I mean, but he's seeing his potential vice president come through when it comes to Nikki Haley.
Yeah, I wonder how much
they're all. Uh-huh.
I was wondering how much it was supported because everybody was talking about before the debate started or before the whole campaigning started that if Trump really wanted to win, he would have picked like Ron DeSantis because he won by 20 points in Florida, and he was like looking at the star at that point. But now he's like people actually see him.
He doesn't need Florida.
He's automatically going to get Florida. I think he's actually winning Florida over DeSantis.
He needs a state like South Carolina. Nikki Haley would hand him some, even though he won South Carolina, right? So, but Nikki Haley beside him would be a good thing to have a brown woman there, right? So
he does need Arizona, like the state side. I think he has the most. He's struggling.
But would people come out for Lake though? Will people come out for Lake?
Well, think about it. Compared to everyone who ran in Arizona, like she was the closest one to almost win Arizona. Like she was very close over Kristi Noem versus Blake Masters, who lost by like I think it was like 5 or 6 points. Or I guess what's his name? I forgot. Mark Kelly. Like that was she had a closer election than he did. I don't know how much folks would want to come out for her. But it was a really close election. Like I really thought that she was going to win that, but ended up Kristi Noem winning it. What's her name? I just said it, but I forgot. The current governor. I really don't know who's going to help her the most, but like the states I think that are in contention are like Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I don't think Michigan is going to be in play because it's leaning more and more blue. But I think those are kind of the main ones to look out for. Maybe North Carolina because it's leaning more to being a toss-up, but I think it's still going to go to the Republicans. But we'll see.
No, it's just a toss-up with everything. I mean, if he was smart, the smart choice would be Nikki Haley. Okay.
She's good on paper.
Having a brown woman next to him, I think would help him, right? Kristi Noem, I think, would be second. She's younger, she's better looking than them all, right? Even though the state she's in, Oklahoma, Omaha or whatever. What state is Kristi Noem?
I'll look it up.
Is it Idaho? Is it Idaho or Omaha? Which one is that? Kristi
Noem. South Dakota, like in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, see, see, that's he won that state handily, so it ain't nothing that he's gonna do in terms of being there. But
I mean, South Carolina. I mean, it's not really a swing state, but it is closer than the other states. I mean, Arizona, South Carolina. I don't know any other states that folks would be a good running mate. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not gonna do anything for him because she's in a very, very red state. She never won anything statewide. So.
Yeah. Do you want to shout out any of your chat people in the chat?
Who do we got? Let me take a look.
We got a couple people who've been there since the very beginning. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you also for stopping in. Rufio, Josh, Eco Seeker, Sabine. Actually, that's my sister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jamie and all y'all. It actually was I think I actually got some less of the technical issues this time around than last time. But definitely, I need to start posting more. Like, I think doing these, because I deleted a lot of content from before to get monetized. So now I have to start doing my own personal content rather than just clipping things from the news. You mentioned that you're going to start covering the cases in Georgia
next month.
Next month.
I'm gonna start covering the next month. That's when they start, man. I think the middle of I think the first case comes up in the middle of October. So I'm gonna try and get some footage from the some B footage from the courthouse.
Yeah.
And maybe take some pictures from different angles down there.
That'd be cool. And you can also consider clipping some things from the news, and then just I don't know if you're gonna do any streaming, but you can do react videos to stuff like that, just to have stuff to post in between.
I'm definitely gonna live stream it from the channel. Yes, so I'll do that. I may not be doing any commentary, of course, but I'd watch it, live stream it in terms of how that would be on the first day, most definitely.
But yeah,
that's going to be something. This is going to be interesting, man. I mean, just the mere fact that none of these people on that stage have a shot. Nikki Haley, I think, is the only one who may come close.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, nah, man. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, they shoot in the dark. They don't have any name recognition.
They want somebody like Glenn Youngkin to come into this thing, man.
Yeah, after he won.
Yeah, they're like, really? I mean, you want him? I mean, compared to you think he's gonna make a difference? I don't get that.
He's
the only.
I think the only reason why they want him is because he's an he kind of upset the whole situation happening. Everyone expected it to go to the Democrats because it's a somewhat blue state.
Right.
But looking at all these polls. It's not even a contest. They have no shot of catching up to Trump.
None. Yeah, like I said, even if he shot somebody, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
It's ridiculous on how this whole thing has come about in that same manner, man. It's like, what? Who's the closest? Is DeSantis still the closest?
DeSantis is still the closest, but it's still further away. Let me check out the more recent polls on 538 on the YouGov poll. The thing is, if you count everybody into it, then DeSantis has kind of a better shot. One poll had DeSantis at 14%, with Trump was at 53%, and then another one it was 12 to 51, Trump at 71, and DeSantis at 28. So he's getting further and further away. He's going down from being in the 20s down to the teens, you know.
Oh yeah. So DeSantis's chances right now are just so much limited. He's going to be out of it. I think within the. I mean, I'm not sure. When's the next debate and who has it?
Let me see. Next. Let me see. The third primary debate is going to be November 8th in Milwaukee. I don't know who's hosting
and does
it
Fox
though.
have that one too? Who's hosting it?
Let me see. Wait, CNN? I think it's CNN. Wait, hold on. Maybe not.
Oh, okay.
Primary debate held November 8th.
I think you're right.
Event told by CNN.
Yeah, I think you're right. CNN. That's gonna be something that could be interesting.
There'll definitely be different questions. They didn't really focus on abortion like they did last time, so we'll see what they did. They kind of did jump a bit more on different topics. So I don't know what they're gonna focus on moving forward.
I think the highlight of the whole time that we were doing was my man trying to go after Nikki Haley after the fact.
Yeah, that was weak.
It was like, I think they're gonna show that the most because it's gonna be like, okay, they put them up against each other, right?
Yeah.
They asked him the question first. He did not go after her. He kind of dodged it, and then she went for the jugular.
Yeah, she was not playing.
Like, oh no, this is my chance. Let me go after this dude. And then he ran out of time. He couldn't go after her, and the last question he had, he tried to come back at her. That's gonna be it right there. That's gonna be the biggest highlight. Nikki and my man trying to go after each other.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good points there. And then I think she went after DeSantis at one point, saying that you didn't allow drilling in Florida, offshore drilling, or
the fracking and all this.
Yeah,
stuff.
fracking. I mean, we don't need that in Florida.
Everybody. She went after everybody. She's the only woman on the stage, so she had to do something different, right? So she went after Vivek. She went after. I mean, the only person I don't think she went after was Christie and
She didn't go. I don't think she went after Mike Pence.
No, she didn't go after Mike Pence either.
Yeah, she went after Vivek, Tim Scott, DeSantis.
Yeah, she went after. She made Tim Scott look like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I mean, you cannot be, like when they asked you the question, they said, "Yo, you need to go after her. What is your problem?"
Because they're both coming from the same state.
All different places. Yes, exactly. Neither one of y'all gonna get this thing, but she got the better shot, dude. You need to come after her.
Eventually, they're all gonna a bunch of them are gonna have to drop off and decide who they're gonna support. Are they gonna support Trump? Most likely, all gonna just support Trump because DeSantis is drying out. I think he's losing a lot of what do you call it? Backers, like those rich CEO backers. Like he's losing a lot of those billionaires.
They all raised their hand. Remember, they all raised their hand. Every single last one of them said Christie raised their hand that they would back Trump if he was the nominee.
Yeah.
Even if he was convicted.
But they had to look. They had to look around the room because it was automatically Vivek went straight up, and then I think that's how DeSantis oh okay, let me do it now, and then they all kind of just followed suit. They're all pretty much followers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Trump would pick Vivek to save his life because he's too much like him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, why would I want to get a dude that's gonna try and get the spotlight more than me? Oh hell no.
Nah, Vivek. I don't think Vivek cares about running for VP because VP slot. I mean, unless you can try to, it does help you to be president if you're running again, and then Trump's only going to get one term if he does win. So I think his best bet is trying to get in on a government position. Okay, I want to be Secretary of State, or I want to be, I want some kind of higher position.
And wait till 2028. All these people don't have a shot.
Especially because he's in pharmacy.
Wait till
He want to do something with pharmacy. He wants to work for who does it? EPA that does drug stuff. I don't know, but yeah, he would want to loosen it so that he can make more money, getting more drugs approved.
Oh, his scam drug approval thing that he did?
Yeah. So I could see he
Remember
trying to
that,
get
right?
Trump to allow him to work for the EPA, like be the head of it or something like that.
Okay.
That would be good because
I
he's
mean-
already making millions doing that. So he just wants to help him and his buddies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Him and his tech bros, or his, the hedge fund bros.
Did you get a chance to see the Trump's little speech? I guess it was happening at the same time as the debate, so I don't know.
No. The one that he went to what? He went to Michigan.
Yeah, he went to Michigan, and it's like, oh yeah,
some workers in Michigan.
Yeah, I'm saying, I'm gonna talk to the union workers, even though it was all BS, because all the workers he's talking to are at a non-union place.
It's not even at a union location. It's not. He ain't really talking about. He's talking. No.
It's all just smoke and mirrors.
People want to talk to him. Nah.
And I think the guy, what's his name, Sean Fain, he actually came out saying that, yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time trying to talk to Trump, because he had a union busting guy controlling the labor relations board during when he was in presidency, and before he was even president, he was trying to push to get rid of unions in his past. So like he called him out for all like the shitty things he did in the past.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna trust the Republican Party for union jobs, because like I'm remembering the time in like what was it, Michigan, where they like pretty much destroyed the public unions. They were cutting back their chances to like negotiate their wages or whatever, and like yeah, they're losing a lot of the Rust Belt states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, because of their fight against unions, and there's a lot of union places, you know.
Yep. Nah, man, he ain't about unions. He don't care about those people.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good show. I'm gonna call it a night though. Definitely, we'll do this again on November 8th.
We gotta do it again. We definitely gotta do it again, man. So let's put it on the calendar and make sure we get a chance to do that.
Definitely.
It was fun. Maybe when the thing comes about for the trial, maybe you can chime in on that one too.
Yeah, keep me posted once they start doing the actual trial. I'll look into that. Depending on the day, I can
Will
do a stream. We could do it on your channel at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, so good night, everybody. We'll do this another time. How do I even end this stream? Where's my... Hold on.